Everybody wants to know what I would say if Predator Badlands wasn't good. Well, I guess we'll never know, because Predator Badlands was just one hell yeah brother after another. There's not enough honey in the universe to pour on Dan Trachtenberg, because this man does not miss. And now he's 3 for 3, because this movie got me ready to run through a brick wall, man. Which roughly translates to, if you don't agree, you can't tell this youch to nothing. But if you couldn't already tell, I just got done watching Predator Badlands, and I'm going to be giving you my honest spoiler-free thoughts of the movie. And then I'll have a spoiler section where I briefly touch upon some spoilers. But either way, me and you know what we got to do. We got to talk about it. And going into Predator Badlands, I had pretty high expectations, just given the fact that Dan Trachtenberg had just delivered us Predator Killer of Killers, and before that, Prey, which are two of my favorite films in the franchise, if not the two best films in the entire Predator franchise. And then when we found out that Predator Badlands, by the way, take a shot every single time I say Predator in this review. Don't, you will meet your ancestors. When we found out that Predator Badlands was going to be doing something the franchise has never done before, and having the Yautja actually be our main protagonist, that already is breaking new ground for the franchise, and it had me excited because I don't have to watch the Yautja die at the end. And then as we started getting more information about how this is following a runt in a Yautja clan named Dek, who has to go on this ultimate hunt to prove his worth to his father, going to a new mysterious planet with a whole bunch of dangerous animals that really feels a lot like Pandora from the Avatar movies, I was locked in, and I'm happy to report after watching the movie, it is a fucking banger. It's probably the most badass movie of the year. And Predator Badlands brings something new and fresh to the franchise, completely flipping the tone on its head. No more is it a B action horror flick focused on humans trying to survive a Yautja hunt, where the humans end up winning in the end. I've seen some people say that it's not a survival movie, but that's just cap. It's just reversed. It is still a survival film, but now it's about the Yautja trying to survive this new dangerous planet. And it's much more action adventure focused. There's a bit of a swashbuckling feeling to it that I think breathed new life into this franchise. That might detract the OG 87 Predator fans away from it though. I've been sitting with my feelings a lot with this movie, and the best way that I can describe it is a video game movie that's actually fucking good, or a movie that should have a tie-in video game. And you could just see all the various influences throughout. What this film does for the Predator franchise is kind of what James Cameron did to T2, in that the first Terminator movie was like just a straight up horror, but the second one was a big action adventure flick with the villain from the previous movie now a hero. But on top of that, mixing it with elements from like super popular video games with giant boss fights like the Shadow of Colossus or God of War, you really feel that boss fight energy when he attacks the Callus, which is the trophy that he's trying to bring back to his clan to prove his worth. But there's more to this Callus than meets the eye. I mean, this shit looks legit like it was ripped from the Shadow of Colossus. And Dan Trachtenberg is a big video game fan, so I feel like those little influences were on purpose. And I said this to my fiance when I came home last night, but it also kind of reminded me of like a reverse Finding Nemo. You'll kind of get what I mean by that when you watch the film. It's like this journey that this person goes on, meets a bunch of strange characters along the way. But at the core center of the film is this struggling relationship between a father and a son, but obviously a lot of different reasons in this movie than Finding Nemo. Another way I would describe this movie is the best Star Wars movie we've gotten since The Last Jedi. If you love The Mandalorian, I think you'll love this movie. And one of the biggest questions going into this movie was, how are they going to make us care about a Yautja as the main character? And they answer that within the first 10 minutes of the movie. You immediately feel for Dek, and you're rooting for him and want him to win. It's like Rocky, but with a Yautja. True underdog story. But this is straight up just 100 minutes of straight action, boss. One fight scene after a fucking another. Banger action sequence after banger action sequence. Incredible action choreography, fight choreography. The blending of visual effects and practical effects is seamless. I will say there are some times where the visual effects looks a little, but it's uncanny valley stuff. Like, how are you supposed to make a predator running around, jumping around and shit look practical? But what surprised me the most about this film is how much heart and wholesomeness is in it. And I think a lot of that is due to Elle Fanning's character, who plays like the audience surrogate role of a synthetic named Thea. She actually, now that I think about it, almost feels like Cortana from Halo. And if I know Dan Trachtenberg, that was probably on purpose. But the chemistry between Elle Fanning and Demetrius Schuster Kaloa Matangi is palpable. You can almost taste it in the air. You know, in some sense, I feel like every movie should be about Elle Fanning befriending a reluctantly emotional Yautja, because this dynamic just speaks to the entire themes of the movie and feeling useless, feeling worthless, and trying to prove yourself. That's something that's just so deeply rooted in everything that we all deal with in a day-to-day basis. But they do it in a way that doesn't feel like it undercuts a Yautja. Even with the comedy in this movie, which, by the way, there's actually a lot of really funny moments in this movie, but it's natural. It doesn't feel forced. They do a great job in weaving the comedy in like Yautja lore. But these two right here and their dynamic is the heartbeat of this film. And whether or not you like this or not is going to probably determine if you like this movie or not. The film also does a great job in expanding the lore of the Yautja. Not a whole lot, but enough for us to get something a little bit different, understanding the familial dynamics between a father, a son, and basically how they live and act. And even the linguistics. They built a full Yautja language for this film. Up until this point, we've only seen seen like words, sentences, but we never got an entire movie with Yautja just talking back and forth. And they bring new things to the way they talk, like their cheeks puff out, which I think is so cool. But more importantly, it's Demetrius's looks with his eyes. There's a lot of show don't tell in this movie, which I really appreciate that Dan is he's well known for that in his other filmographies. There's a lot they tell with expressions, and you can really feel that in his performance. Those damn eyes, man. Eye acting is very underrated. We do have our cute little character named Bud, who's basically our Grogu for this film, but they actually play a huge role into the film. And I really loved all the moments with Bud and Deck. If anything happens to Bud, Dan Trachtenberg, you will be hearing from my therapist. And it is just a film about found family at the end of the day, which I thoroughly loved. Deck said, man, fuck this clan, I'm gonna make my own clan. But on top of the action, the performances, I really loved the production design, the set design, the creature designs are all absolutely incredible. We get introduced to some pretty freaky creatures that we ain't never seen before. In that sense, it felt like Avatar, Pandora. But we also got Weyland-Yutani, which is a clear connection to the alien universe that plays a huge role in this film. It's all wrapped together in Sarah Schachner's fucking booming score, which features like Yautja chanting with synth stylization. It just helps elevate the movie in certain scenes and makes you just be like, ooh, chills. I wanna run through this wall right now. I wanna run through the fucking screen. And coupling that with Jeff Cutter's cinematography, finally I'm able to see his cinematography up on the big screen after Prey was not released in theaters. It's all beautiful and gorgeous. This is just aggressively my kind of movie. Sci-fi, action, adventure, comedy. It's just got all the sensibilities that I look for in a sci-fi action film. And I'm just so happy that Dan Trachtenberg has been given the keys to the Predator franchise, because like I said, between this, Killer of Killers, and Prey, he's on a fucking roll, and I can't wait to see what he brings next. And I've seen a lot of people complaining about the fact this movie's rated PG-13, but it's a loophole in the system. It's because there's no red blood in this film, but there's plenty of synthetic blood, plenty of Yautja blood, and there's some crazy ass kills still. It's still violent as hell. Now, there aren't any post-credit scenes in this movie, but there is a nice little tease about what they're going to be bringing for the future for Predator Badlands. It's something that we've never seen in movies before. It's got me so excited. But all in all, I ended up giving Predator Badlands 4 out of 5 stars on Letterboxd. But those were just my non-spoiler thoughts of the film. Now I'm going to get into spoilers. So if you don't want to be spoiled, make sure you drop a like and follow and come back later. Okay, I want to start off with that tease for a potential Predator Badlands 2. Because for a second, I thought it was going to be the crew from Killer of Killers pulling up. But when he said, no, it's my mother, I was like, oh shit, we're gonna get a female Yautja in a movie for the first time ever. The only time we've ever seen them is briefly in like Dark Horse comics or the video games. And there's been different interpretations of what a female Yautja is like, so I'm excited to see where they pull from the lore. Now, I love our trio of Deck, Thea, and Bud. I wonder if they're trying to combine them with the folks from Killer of Killers and Arnold to like an endgame type Predator film. I don't know. That shit would be fire. Can we also talk about how Deck's father is a fucking fraud? The only way he'd be winning is because of his fucking cloak. Deck packed his shit up real quick. I will say that moment felt kind of anticlimactic, but it just showed how much Deck is smarter than his father. Motherfucker tried to cloak up. He said, all right, here goes some dust in your face. I'm gonna kill you. And the entire twist with Bud ending up being the daughter of the Callus was great. I didn't see that shit coming when she spit in Deck's face. That was hilarious, but it also helped the Callus be friends with Deck. I thought Deck was going to end up taming the Callus. I said that before. I guess I was kind of right. But also, these Callisks are interesting because they can regenerate. Now you understand why Weyland-Yutani wanted them so bad, because they're all about preserving human life and extending their periods of living. So having a creature that can regenerate and trying to, scope that out and create it for your own like health reasons is actually interesting. Now Deck has the only other Callisk, at least that we know of, so you can bet your ass that Weyland-Yutani is gonna come back with a vengeance. I also loved the scene of Deck using the planet of Genna and all of its inhabitants to create his own technology. He wore the hide of the bison thing on his face. He used one of those little snake venom fucking acid spitting things as a cannon on his shoulder, which I thought was dope. Obviously he had the tooth of one of those creatures as a fucking claw, and it was just so smart. I love that moment because it was like, when Arnold gets his little mud on or whatever. This goes to show you how he makes up for his lack of size as a Yautja with his smarts. And I love that. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Will you be watching Predator Badlands? If you've seen it already, let me know what you thought down in the comments below. And as always, like and follow for more.